Kia ora YouTube whānau, my name's Rick and this is Rick the Maker. So today's going to be a bit of a different video. I'm actually going to show you guys my favourite tools and like stuff like that, what I use my tools for, the ones that I've made, and also what I do with some of the scraps of bone that I end up with from my bone carving. So I'm not going to do these in any specific order or anything like that. It's literally just going to be my favourite tools. And I'm also going to have some in there that you guys probably wouldn't have even thought of, but they help a lot. First things first is actually this one here. This is just a holder that I use. I've just made it out of two pieces of wood, a thin piece of metal that I cut two strips and then rounded the ends and actually just put a bolt through it. And I know it may look like something that you wouldn't really use for stuff like this, but it actually comes in really handy. I'll actually use it, I'll get carvings and stuff like that, and just makes it a bit easier to hold them. And there's this piece of wood here, which is pretty much just tapered down. Don't worry about that, that's just the only piece of wood I found at the time. And I've actually carved out a little bit of a groove right down the shaft there. And you shove that right through into there, push it quite tight. Now that's holding it there. It comes in very handy, especially if I'm working on really small pieces, like this piece here. Just do that, push that through, and then you're actually able to carve it a bit easier and hold it. And yeah, that's one there. This one here is one that I made before I actually ended up making this here, which is just an old set of pliers, really. Just a set of pliers that I ended up picking up from a market. And all I've done is I've just ground it down because it was covered in quite a bit of rust. I ground it down, drilled a hole through there, got a bolt that I cut the head off and drilled a hole through the end of it. And then there's just a bit of metal going through there that holds the bolt in but allows it to move. You can see there that it's able to move. And then I've drilled a hole here. I've got a wing nut on here. So this pretty much does the same thing as this does, but it just holds it a bit tighter. So I do that, tighten this up, and that holds it in place. All I've got on here is just some shrink tube just to make it grip a bit better, and it also won't damage whatever I'm holding. So there's no damage or anything like that. If I'd used a straight metal, because there's actually teeth on it, it could have damaged it. So that's why I've done that. Next one is one that I use quite a lot. I mean, it seems a bit silly. It's literally like a $3 brush, but I've just cut the end off it. And this I use a lot, especially if I'm doing a lot of fine stuff, getting into like real small nooks and crannies and all that kind of stuff. And it fills up with dust, I can just grab this and brush all the dust out. Especially having this extractor here, it comes in really handy because I'm able to literally brush all the dust straight into the extractor. Makes life a lot easier having something like this around, especially if you're trying to see what you're doing and you can't quite see because it's just full of dust, and bone dust will tend to compact itself after a while if there's a lot of it shooting into a corner. So that comes in really handy. Next one is this. This is just a piece of foam that I've just wrapped and hot glued on a piece of old bed sheet, funnily enough. And I just cut a groove in there so that it sits on here and it won't move as much. But that's really nice, especially just being able to rest things on it. I'd say this and just be able to carve it. I don't actually have to hold it the whole time. And it's a bit easier on the hand. Sometimes I'll move it here and I'll actually sit my wrists on it like this and carve like this. It's just something that makes life a little bit easier, a bit more comfortable. Especially if I'm doing intricate carvings and stuff like that, it can take 3-4 hours to do them. So it does pay to have something that's a bit more comfortable. Next one, which I don't think you guys would have thought of. Some of you probably have, but it's pretty much blue tack or tack it. It's just a sticky kind of clay type thing. You just mold it up. And I find this incredibly good for if, again, I'm doing really fine things like this here. Because if I'm wanting to carve something on the front of it, I can just do that and that. And then that will hold it as well. Especially if I'm wanting to carve something specific like a name or something like that into the back of a carving, this comes in really handy. Yeah, just the stuff that I've got is called tack it. You can get other stuff, it's called like blue tack and all that kind of stuff, but I mean, you don't have to spend a lot on it. It all pretty much does the same thing, and it's very, very handy to have. Another thing is popsicle sticks. I've got pops, not just normal, like these are the large popsicle sticks. I've got normal popsicle sticks. I've even got these ones here, the skinny ones, uh, just little like rod ones, different sizes of those. These come in incredibly handy, especially if you're doing stuff with, say, CA glue and stuff like that. The CA glue, as soon as it sticks on your hand, a lot of you probably know it's a pain to get off, but with this kind of stuff here, all I do is I have these and I'll just get a knife and I'll literally just carve a shape out of it and like carve it into a point if I need a point to dig out some bone or something like that in a corner or something like that. But they come in extremely handy. Another one, a mechanical pencil. These are a must have when you're doing bone carving and stuff like that, because the lines that they draw are so much nicer, so much thinner. Like there's no way I could do two lines like that with a gap in the middle with a normal pencil. Mechanical pencils are so good for bone carving because you're doing such intricate work and you need such fine lines to be able to see exactly what you're doing and all that kind of stuff. A mechanical pencil is a must have, most definitely. Another thing is a lot of light. You need a lot of light when you're bone carving. There's nothing worse than bone carving and you don't have enough light, because it's so hard for you to see, especially say if you're carving into a hole. It's so hard for you to see the inside of the hole without enough light. I've actually got LED light strips around up above here. I've got two LEDs over here, which I have shining down, and the two LEDs over here, I can actually position them where I want them. It makes such a difference. Now, other than that, pretty much everything I use is pretty standard. You've got the basic files, all that kind of stuff. Sometimes I will use these, which are droppers. I'll actually use these to blow air into certain areas to get some dust out as well. Here it's just sandpaper, normal sandpaper that I've cut into strips, but first I actually stuck some masking tape to the back of it just to make it a bit stronger, because if you don't do that, it gets like pretty weak pretty quickly. I'll use these if, say, I'm doing a carving like, say, this one, and I need to sand inside these areas here. It's a real pain to try and get a normal piece of sandpaper into here and to sand around there. So what I'll actually do is I'll clamp this, I'll grab one of these, I'll put it through, and I'll just do it back and forward, like, say, like how they used to use the saws to cut down big trees. You get one hand on one side and one hand on the other side and just slide it backwards and forwards. It makes a huge difference for getting into like areas like that and sanding them. It's definitely a must-have. I mean, it's not expensive. A roll of masking tape's like $3, and then you've got the sandpaper, which is a couple of dollars. It makes life a lot easier. And if you're doing bone carving, you'll have sandpaper lying around anyway, so definitely helps. Another thing is a good super glue. Now, I've used quite a few different types of super glue in the past. This is my favorite at the moment. This super glue is really good in the way that it's actually a bit thick. It's kind of the consistency of, like, say, shampoo. It's runny, but it is thick. The best thing I've found about this stuff is where you put it, it pretty much stays. So if I put it there, it'll stay there. It won't run. That's the only annoying thing about the really thin super glue. It's kind of like water. It'll just want to spread anywhere that it can. Definitely go for the thick stuff. This I got from Mitre 10 Mega in New Zealand. You guys will be able to find something else, something very similar to it. There is another one that's also called Mitre Bond, which is pretty much exactly the same stuff. This is a bit cheaper though. I think this is about 17, 18 New Zealand dollars. And I use it all the time. Don't even just use it for bone carving. I use it to fix the kids' toys. I use it around the workshop. I use it to make jigs. It's very good to have. Alrighty. What do I do with my scraps? Whenever you're doing anything that's creative or anything like that, you will always end up with scraps. I actually end up with quite a lot of bone scraps. It's one of those things that no matter what you're doing, you're going to end up with something left over. Most of the time my scraps are the likes of this, or say this, or even pieces that I've cut off the top of a piece of bone. I do have a lot of scraps around. I have a container that I have all of my bone in, which isn't this one. I'll grab the correct one and show you. Just this one here. I actually have some greenstone in here too, which I'm going to end up doing again. I just got to set up for it. So I've got this one here. So this has got most of my bone in it. I've got all these offcuts here. So these are all the pieces that you end up left over with when doing bone carving. Same with these here. These are all just offcuts. I'll start with a piece of bone like this, and I'll only use like this piece here, so I end up with a straight piece. Now that piece there is actually a really good piece. That'd be really good for like say a long pendant. So I'll be able to use that for an actual carving. But the pieces like say this one or even this one would be good for say earrings, stuff like that. But when you start getting around to pieces like this, the best thing that I have found to use them for is beads and stuff like that. You can do little earrings as well, like just the little round ones and stuff like that, and say put a little piece of power in it. But beads is a good one, and also stuff like this. These are really good as well. These I actually use for a lot of my carvings. When I string my carvings, I'll just have a piece of cordage that I attach to it, and then I'll do a loop, and then I'll just put one of these on the end of it. So it's literally just a long piece, like a short piece of bone that's round-ish. Doesn't have to be perfectly round. I mean, hardly anyone's going to see it. Polish it up, drill a hole in the middle, and then you just feed a piece of cordage through it, tie a knot, and then you just use that as kind of like the clasp for your carving. And just do that. But those are the best things I've found. Beads are really good because you could say do a carving like this and then run a couple of beads down as well. So there's a couple of bone beads sitting above the carving. They're really good in the way that they help to keep this open. So if you don't have the two beads, these cords automatically want to go together. If you have the two beads on them, it wants to pull the cords apart. And it just sits a lot nicer around the neck. So there's that. Other than that, yeah, it's just a matter of thinking outside the box, thinking of what you could make with them. I mean, earrings is probably one of the best things for pieces of bone like this. Like, it's quite a sizable piece of bone. It's quite a thick piece of bone, yeah? So you could quite easily get a carving out of that. A necklace or an earring, sorry. So you could just do, like, say, something like that. And around down the bottom. So you'd have your hole at the top. And you could put a piece of power or something, or even a piece of timber or something in the middle, or make it hollow in the middle. I haven't gotten into doing the stretches yet. You know, a lot of people will have like piercings in their ears and they're actually stretching the hole bigger. That would be really good for, like, say, pieces like this piece here. You get quite a nice size stretcher out of that. Even maybe two of them. Do one, two. There you go. So it's just a matter of looking at what you've got left over and seeing what you can do with it. When it comes to earrings and all that kind of stuff, I know it can be a bit of a pain to find the parts that like go for earrings, all that kind of stuff. But the best place, honestly, that I have found to find that kind of thing is AliExpress or Temu. Um, I got these from AliExpress, I think it was, and one of these has little loops in it, which is actually really handy. I actually used a couple of these on the earrings video that I did quite a while ago, one of my videos. It had a moon-shaped bit of bone with a power circle in the middle of it. And I got those from there. I think it was a pack of like 200 of these. I think it was 50 of each colour for like $2. And then these as well. These were a pack of 50, I'm pretty sure. A pack of 200, 50 of each colour. And I think this was about $4 or $5. But that's all that is, just for the earrings. I do want to look at, say, getting some loops and stuff like that for doing keychains, because keychains would be really good, especially with bone, especially with these longer pieces. I have seen a few people do like kind of little wind chimes out of bone, and then people are hanging them up in their car. Yeah. So it all depends on really how far your imagination can go when it comes to your scrap pieces of bone, really. And there's so much you can do with bone. It's a very hard material. But yeah, very hard material, very easy to carve. It's just one of those things that takes a lot of practice. Practice is the main thing when it comes to bone carving. Best thing you can do if ever you're starting out bone carving is get some bone and just go for it. Just have a simple design. All you need is, say, just a basic hook. When I say simple design, I mean like something like this. Very simple design. That's all you need to do. Just start off with these. This will start getting, like, the good thing about the hooks like this too is they get you used to doing curves, getting your curves right, and cutting through, because you're going to be cutting through here and through here as well. And a lot of the time it pays to put a bit of a taper from this edge up to this edge, so it tapers in a bit, and then you want tapers probably around here as well. Now usually I'll do tapers. I won't do a full taper, but I'll do a taper that'll end up rounding over time, like say this one here. So I've got the tapers going in. This one was just one that I was playing around with. I had a little piece of script left over and I wanted to check out some bits that I'd ended up getting. But this one here, it's got a taper that goes in there, taper there, and taper into the hole. And around here you can actually see, hopefully the camera's picking it up all right, you can see the rounded edge at the edge of the taper there. But yeah. Also, bits. I wanted to go through bits a little bit with you guys. The main thing with bits that you need to remember is there's probably only going to be 3 or 4 different types that you use to begin with. Now, the main ones you use to begin with will be one that I've shown you guys in pretty much all of my videos, is this one here. This is a very, very cheap bit. Comes in pretty much all packs that you get with bits in it, but it's probably my go-to Dremel bit, to be perfectly honest. Another one is probably something like, say, this one. These come in the cheap bits too. Now, you will probably end up getting to a point where you want to upgrade to something that's a bit better. So I've got this one here, which is a tungsten bit. This is really good for doing the hollowing out. If you're hollowing out and things, this is probably the best bit to do that kind of thing. Now, obviously, it is quite big, but you can get smaller bits and bigger bits. Just remember that the smaller the bit is, the easier it is to break. Trust me, been there, done that a few times. It's really easy to break them once they hit a certain smallness, I suppose would be the best word. Next thing probably would be something like, say, this one here, which also comes in the cheaper bits. This is just a tapered, like teardrop type one. Now this is really good for getting your tapers as well, because you can actually get a slight curve outwards with this one. I think other than that, it's probably one of these. Now this is a polishing bit. Now I use these bits quite a bit for getting into the really tight areas that I need to polish. This is the polish that I use. It's just a basic polish that you can get off like AliExpress. You can get them from pretty much any hardware store, stuff like that. This one here I use, this is the white. I think it's one of the coarser ones. You can get a green as well, but usually I'll just use that, and that brings up the shine pretty nice on bone, really, as you can see with that one. Brings up the shine quite well. That is pretty much all you need to begin with. I don't use these ones as much as I used to, because I did end up getting myself a buffing wheel, which I use on my grinder, bench grinder. But other than that, it's one of those things. How much are you willing to spend? And like, it's one of those, are you going to be doing it for a while? Because if you are, you could spend the money on it. The main thing I like about this kind of hobby is there is money in it. You can sell what you make. You can also sell it as, or give it away as gifts to people for like birthdays, graduations, anything like that. I've noticed a lot of schools in New Zealand are doing that as well, giving carvings to students and stuff when they like graduate and all that kind of stuff. So yeah. Also, another thing, sourcing your bone. I do have a video on how I process my bone that I carve. I do go through quite a bit of bone. That is why I process it myself. If you don't want to do that, you can buy beef bone that has been processed. I don't know exactly where. I haven't needed to buy bone for years, but you can buy it ready to carve pretty much. I'm guessing there's probably going to be some on AliExpress and stuff like that, but I wouldn't do that because I don't know how that works in terms of customs, being that it is technically like a body part, if you know what I mean, like it is part of an animal. But yeah, I mean, it's something you could look into quite easily. Also, power. Now, power I get from quite a few places actually. This power here, amazingly enough, I got from a gift shop in Wellington, New Zealand, up in Wellington. It's pretty easy to find power and all that like kind of stuff in New Zealand, because power in New Zealand is everywhere. The only thing is, I haven't needed to get it for a while, so I don't know exactly the best place to get it from now. I mean, a lot of the time you can find it anywhere. I remember when I was younger at my nana's house, she had power all over the place as ashtrays. So power is one of those things that it's pretty much everywhere. You can buy, I know you can buy it from hardware stores and stuff like that. I don't know the quality of it, because these ones here that I got from, I think it was Te Papa, the museum up in Wellington. This stuff's really good. This has been gotten this. They got this to the point where I could just use it straight away. Other power would obviously be one of those things that you'd have to try and source yourself. But yeah, just have a look online and see what you can find. Other than that, I think that's about it. Everything else I've pretty much showed you guys in all my other videos and stuff like that. So if you guys have any more questions about my tools or anything like that, or you want to know any techniques and stuff like that, or if you guys want advice on a carving you're doing, or guys want to see me do a particular type of carving that you guys are having trouble with or something like that, just let me know in the comments. I mean, I read every single comment. I reply to as many as I can. I think there's only like 3 or 4 that I haven't, and that's because it was one of those, what do I say to that type comments. But yeah, other than that, just let me know. I mean, if you guys want a full breakdown of everything I have when it comes to carving, let me know, because I'll do another video for you guys if you really want it. Other than that, yeah, I mean, like, subscribe. If you know of anybody that wants to get into bone carving, send them my way. I don't mind answering any questions you guys have. Definitely like and subscribe. It gets my channel out there. I've recently just hit 1,000 subscribers, and thank you guys very, very much for that. I was waiting for it to count down till New Year's, but unfortunately, it was about 3 days after New Year's that it ticked over. But no, that's fine. I appreciate it a lot. You guys have been great. The questions you guys have had have been awesome, and I just want to say thank you. And let's keep carving. I mean, I'm going to have other videos coming out. The next video I'll have coming out will be a bone carving. And then I think there's one that I want to do, which is like just little things, like little tea light candle holders and stuff like that. Just show you guys how easy it is to actually make that things with minimal tools. So yeah, thanks guys for watching. Ka kite.